Hey there everybody, Matt Carter here.
And Jessica Carter.
This video is our Walking Dead reaction to Season 10, Episode 12. This is the sort of story that will make heads roll. I believe that's what AMC put on their posters leading into the... No, they didn't do that. That
no, that's just here at the channel that you're going to get these jokes.
You're welcome. Okay, well, we're going to get into... Obvious spoiler alert if you haven't seen it. It's on AMC Premiere, but if you haven't seen it yet, stop watching now. Alpha's dead. We're going to go through what happened, how it all unfolded, where we think we're going from here.
Yep.
But before we dive in, if you do like this discussion, remember to give us a like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any other updates.
So we're going to be jumping in straight away into the big news of this episode, which is that Alpha is dead, and Negan is the person who actually did this. So I know that in the comics that this is kind of how it played out a little bit, that Negan ended up taking care of Alpha. Because they've made such a departure from the comics over the years, I wasn't sure if they were still going to go in that direction, but here we are and they did. And it makes a lot of sense in a lot of ways, because he was already sort of the leader of the Saviors and that whole society, which was a little more of a functioning society. Then he's with, you know, the Carol and Daryl groups that are also running a little more of a civilized society. I can't see him deciding to, you know, stop picking tomatoes to go live in the forest and wear dead skin on his face. Like, it just didn't make any sense of who he is and what kind of world he wants to live in. So it's felt like that he was going there to either get intel, to get her head, something was going on.
I think Negan likes a certain degree of order. And I'm not saying that Negan is someone who is obsessed with the idea, like he doesn't have a day planner that he looks at every morning, but I think Negan doesn't necessarily love the idea of being in a world that is chock full of chaos, where there's stuff happening that he can never really anticipate. And he doesn't want to be sort of a cog in someone else's plan. I think Negan thrives on having a degree of control, and this actually gives him more control than almost anything that he has done since he was locked away.
Yeah, I mean, this is a really good sort of way to prove that he's not even necessarily changed, but that he's with them and that he's willing to do whatever it takes. He's willing to be with Alpha. He's willing to wear the mask. He's willing to integrate himself into that society. He's willing to do whatever he can to have that chance at picking tomatoes and maybe having people hate him a little bit less. And this is where it gets a little bit sticky for me, because while I feel that Negan can move forward and he can try to start to do the right thing, for me, he can never be redeemed from what he was, where we met him, the way he was treating all the Saviors, all the women that were his wives. Like, everything happened with Glenn, Abraham. Like, I just don't feel that this character is redeemable to me.
And to me, I don't really think that he has to be redeemed. I think Negan is fine just being Negan, just being who he is. And I can say, thanks, Negan, for getting rid of Alpha, but then also be like, you know, you are still a horrible person, Negan. You still killed Glenn. And yeah, you can still be a part of the show moving forward. Do I need to see Negan suddenly hanging around all the communities at their bake sales and doing like dances with all of his friends? I don't know if I want to see that.
No, but I mean, if I see him in a situation where now maybe he's just not locked up and coming out for just picking tomatoes and going on supply runs, and he has to be watched all the time, that maybe that would be an okay existence. But if I see him sitting at the table where all the big players are making decisions and whatever, like, I'm out on that. I'm not there. There should be no real trust in him to have him running anything. That is just dangerous and stupidity beyond belief.
I will say this. I think this episode is the best performance that we've had from Jeffrey Dean Morgan as this character. I love Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I've never loved the casting. I didn't really think it was a perfect fit. I felt like the show itself tried to almost adhere to the comics too much with Negan, and they made him a little bit over the top. But his final conversation with Alpha, it was just like drenched in humanity and sort of drenched in who Negan was and how he sees the world and the difference between himself and Alpha. And it reminded me of how I think this is the right time for Alpha to die. But I'm also going to miss Samantha Morton to a certain extent because she was so good with that like weird, crepey southern accent she was doing the whole time. Yeah,
she was really, really good. And I know we had 2 seasons of Negan, and by the time we got even into the beginning of the 2nd season, I was over it. Like, I was just done with it. I wanted to move on to something new. We've had a lot of the Whisperers now, and I am not over it yet. And a lot of it is due to Samantha Morton's performance as Alpha and sort of the constant of her, of that, and the people believing in her. And I loved that she was actually using the walkers as part of her plans to keep her society going, to be able to attack people. It was just a very interesting way to look at this world, because this has been on the air for 10 seasons now. We've run into a lot of different groups, like the governor, and Negan wasn't that far off from that either. So having something completely different, really great. And yeah, I'm gonna miss her.
But I guess, I mean, this is the big question. What happens to the Whisperers now? Because you know, there are still other clear problems within that organization, and they may not have necessarily much of a leader. So is this a situation where now that you don't have Alpha, do they just crumble? Does someone else rise to the forefront?
Well, what I'm wondering is now that Alpha's gone, is there any sort of, we don't know, any sort of real democracy of who gets chosen next? Or is it just that Beta rises and now he's in that spot? Because as scary as Alpha is, Beta is also equally as terrifying in another way.
Beta will just come in and bludgeon everyone to death, and that is a legitimate fear with him in power. I mean, I do think that you can probably outmaneuver Beta, because he doesn't strike me as the sort of person who's exceptional at planning things. He's more, he's a doer. He's not a planner.
But he has also had a lot of time being around Alpha, knowing how she's worked a lot of plans. So I'm sure he's had a lot of experience, and he will at least be able to dive into that.
I will go ahead and throw this out there. I think Beta's going to kill someone before the end of this season, and I think it's probably going to be someone who makes us very, very upset.
Yeah, I don't foresee Ezekiel making out of this season, which pains me to say, but I mean, with his cancer, I don't want to see him die slowly of cancer. I want to see him be able, if he does have to go out and there is no way to cure this or get him through it, that he's going to be doing something that a king would do, that he would be taking out someone really important, stopping the Whispers, doing what he can. And I think that if he goes out this season, that's how it's going to happen.
Okay, so should we then have Ezekiel, like, be caught in some like burning building with Beta and they both die together in that way? Should they like roll off the side of a cliff together? Like,
this is not Hannibal.
Where is it? Okay, if Ezekiel goes, take Beta with you.
Yes.
Find a way. Eye for an eye. If we lose a good person, we also have to lose a bad person.
So we also have to talk about Earl with all the kids, because I have a bit of a bone to pick with this episode. So Earl goes off with all the kids. They're all hiding in a cabin. He's been bit. Okay, all right, we get it. So he's got to go. He pulls out this nail. He's going to knock himself in the head with it. Okay, and he does it in the cabin filled with children. He doesn't leave the cabin. He doesn't go somewhere else, so he's not going to come back as a walker in a cabin full of children. He does it in the cabin full of children and then comes back, and now Judith has to take care of the situation. It was not well thought out, Earl.
Okay, let's start with the idea. there's a character on The Walking Dead named Earl. How do we think this is going to end? Is Earl gonna be... Earl is not gonna make the most thought-out decision here. Earl, I am so far out on Earl. I am out on this storyline. Give me 5 more minutes of just Carol staring at Alpha's head, and so we can sit here and think about how much she knew about the plan in advance, if there was a plan. I will take all of that over Earl and Judith and whatever this nonsense was.
I like to think that Carol knew and that this was not necessarily part of her plan, because we did see her chase off Alpha and get everyone stuck in the cave and everything like that. But I want to feel that she knew that this was his plan and that he was just kind of taking too long. So she had the whole thing with the cave, chased her down, all that storyline, but that she knew. There's something about the idea of Carol and Negan both kind of trying to come together to make something happen that I like.
I could see her knowing. I could see them, like, having a conversation beforehand, but then maybe a little ways in, her being like, you know, why hasn't he just done this yet? I'm getting really annoyed. I'm going to take matters into my own hands.
Or worried. I mean, we all know Negan, right?
Yeah, I mean, Negan's not an easy person to be in cahoots with. I think that is pretty clear. I think she probably either knew something or was aware that someone like Negan wouldn't really fit in and hang out with the Whisperers all that long.
Well, I'm also wondering, because if Carol knew, and now she has Alpha's head, she has the story. So it's basically, because we did see Aaron run into Negan and have that moment where he's like, oh my God, now he's with the Whisperers. So there's going to be other people spinning tales. But if Carol knew from the get-go, then she's able to come back with Negan, with the head, and explain it.
I hope that she does. Otherwise, it's probably just going to be a bunch of, like, awkward stare-downs between Negan and other characters being like, why are you back?
Yeah, and because of people like Aaron who don't trust him, who saw him, he would be able to be like, well, I saw him running with them in the woods. Like, who knows how this actually ended up happening? But Carol is really trusted in this community. Everybody trusts her. So if she's going to come forward and say, I knew about this, and so I know that this is real, you can't trust Negan, but you can trust me, then that might give him at least privilege to be outside of the cell and maybe just sleep in a bed.
Well, it would be nice to get updates on what's happening with Negan and Carol and all of this in the aftermath of losing Alpha. So instead, The Walking Dead is ready to give you an episode all about Michonne and Virgil next week. So
yep, they're Morganing the situation. We saw this before where we all thought that Glenn was dead, and then we had this big thing about Morgan, which was one of the best episodes out there, but nobody gave it a chance because everybody was super pissed and they all wanted to know what was happening with Glenn. So now we're having that happen.
Congratulations. Okay, so here's what we know. Michonne was taking Virgil to his island where supposedly his family is there. Big surprise, everyone. Something goes terribly wrong. Yeah. And apparently, Michonne, is Virgil telling the truth? Is there something new that's arrived there and taken over? I mean, we can speculate about all of that, but the biggest question that's in my head, is this going to be Denai's final episode of The Walking Dead?
Yeah, I mean, we know that it's coming, and I feel like whatever's going on with Virgil is going to be why or how it sort of is the catalyst of her moving on, but I'm still having a really hard time wrapping my head around the idea that she would ever leave her kids permanently. So it makes me worried that maybe they were going to kill her off. I can't see her just abandoning her son and daughter like that. Maybe she gets some sort of intel on Rick and is like, hey guys, can you please take care of the kids for a little longer? I gotta go find my man, see if it's really true.
I am leaning towards it not being her final episode, only for that reason. I think we will see Michonne in this episode either get some information about Rick or get some information that makes her want to leave. But I can't fathom in my head Michonne leaving for good and then not telling Judith and not telling other people back in the communities. Yeah. I think she's got to be back there to pass something along. And that way I can at least try to understand why she wouldn't take Judith and RJ, that maybe it is like so dangerous a journey that she's on that they'll be safer there, and I can at least understand a little bit more.
Yeah, my worry is that they're gonna kill her off, because I mean, why would she ever leave Judith or her son? I don't know why. It, like, I keep trying to run stories in my head, like, what would be the purpose? She's not going to just go to Virgil Island and be like, oh man, it's great here, so I'm never coming back. Like, unless she's held prisoner or dead or really has a good lead on Rick and is like, I will be back. Like, I don't know why she would ever leave them.
Don't kill Michonne, guys. Like,
No,
come on,
no.
come on. You got the Rick Grimes movies that are out there. No Denye's very, very busy, but you know, you find a way to make everything work. All right, well, let's get your guys' thoughts on The Walking Dead Season 10, Episode 12, The End of Alpha. If you think this is Michonne's final episode coming up, share in the comments. If you do like this video, give us a like, subscribe, and you can support us further by checking the link in the description to the store, and we'll see you here next time.